TGIF, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully your Friday is off to a great start. I know everybody's working for the weekend, and if you get off of work here in a few hours and get to start those couple days off, hopefully you're appreciating it. Got a lot of exciting and big news and things to announce today. And before we get into that, obviously this is the members-only video. It's free to the public today because you guys did a great job of pounding that thumbs up button the last 3 days. If you want to continue to do that, we don't mind in the slightest, and this is just kind of a thank you from us to you guys.
Yeah, so thank you guys. I'm excited to make this video with you and have it out for the public. These Friday slates are always fun, man.
So the first thing that I want to announce is I'm really, really excited about this, and I'm really pleased to announce that we have started kind of a new business partnership with a company called Jazz Sportsbook. You can play casino over here, but for us, mostly what we're going to be talking about, though, is going to be the sports betting side of things. I know, Matt's been real deep into the world of sports betting for a really, really long time. So it's something you've been doing since even way before, DFS was even a thing. So we're going to be doing a lot of talking about this, a lot more news to come about what we're going to be doing. But this is who we're going to be working with for the time being, and we're really excited about it. Had a couple of long phone calls with them recently, talking through withdrawal processes and things like that, things that they can differentiate from themselves. One of the things that they talked about, they got a lot of player prop bets up for the Super Bowl, and this is a great time to make your first deposit because there is a $25 free pay for anybody who signs up for the Super Bowl. So that's from them to us. What we will offer you, if you make the initial deposit and you go in and you click to join and you sign up and you use the promo code down here of 5-pack like this, we will give you a free month of DFS 5-pack services. So let us know if you do sign up. We can see when we have new players. We can't necessarily see what your email is or who you are. So follow up with me via Twitter, email, anything like that. And if you sign up to play through them and give them a whirl, we'll give you a free month of 5-pack services. You'll get all the free promotions that they got going as well. The $25 free pay for the Super Bowl, the deposit match, and everything like that. We're going to be doing daily sports betting talk. So just kind of something that we're throwing into our arsenal. So more information coming from us as well.
Yeah, excited to break that down. I'm excited about Jazz Sports. A lot of good stuff going on. Not the least of which being our new Discord.
Yeah, because that's what I was getting into next. So lifetime customers, you guys have all had the last week to sign up and get acclimated. Monthly customers and annual customers, you're coming next. Last night, I sent the link out to the NBA-only customers. Please, over the next day or two, if you want to be on the Discord channel, please use that link to sign up, and we'll get you approved and ready to rock. Monthly customers, annual customers, you guys are coming soon. Speaking of monthly customers, we said this yesterday, but I'm going to say this literally on every video for the next week so everybody knows it. If you are a current monthly customer, you can be grandfathered into the current rate permanently. It won't go up for you. However, we are raising the rate on monthly customers, which is something we've never done, in about a week from now. But we're also going to be adding weekly customers as a possibility for you. So if you're looking for more or less, a shorter term commitment, that'll be at you. And if you are a monthly customer and want to keep your rate, you can keep it for as long as you're a customer unless you cancel and come back. So just take that for what it's worth.
No doubt about it, man.
All right, so let's get into this actual DFS slate now that we've gone through all the announcements. And the first thing that I wanted to bring up for everybody, if you're looking for an edge tonight, we got some really, really good crush spots that are out there. However, literally almost every game going today is going to be on some version of a back-to-back tomorrow. There are a few spots you could go to that is not a thing. So look at this stuff carefully. There's almost too many back-to-backs to really get into great detail about it today because there's only a few spots that don't have it. But if you're looking for an edge, that might be a little something you can look into. But I don't know if we've ever had as many back-to-backs as we're going to have to deal with tonight versus tomorrow.
Yeah, and teams that played yesterday too. So I'm with you.
It's over the top, almost overwhelming. So as much as it is something you might be able to find a little edge on, you can also approach this slate as just almost ignoring it because literally almost every single player has to deal with it.
No doubt.
All right, so we're going to go through this game by game per usual. First game up is going to be Zion Williamson taking on Brogdon and Sabonis and the boys. And let's start with the guy that you can assume will be, very, very chalky again. And probably one of the better plays of the night on paper is going to be Domantas Sabonis of the Indiana Pacers. Expect him to be chalky. He was way underpriced last slate against Milwaukee. And even though the Pacers got flat out rolled by my Bucks, he still absolutely dominated that slate at high ownership with 59 DK points. He is one of the more consistent players in the world of DFS. And another feather in the hat of Domantas Sabonis is we just hit up on the back-to-back angle. He's like one of the only good plays tonight that doesn't have to play tomorrow. So I will tell you right now, he's going to be a cash game lock for me. He seems like a really easy play. And I think you'll probably agree with this, but I'll let you say your 2 cents after this. If you like him, just play him in tournaments in 2 because you got 7 other spots to be different.
No doubt about it. He's still too cheap. He wasn't even as high owned as I thought he might be last slate.
What was he in tournaments? Because he was like 67% in the cash game I was in.
He was like slightly under 50.
Okay.
So, again, that's high ownership, but, man, he was absolutely smashing in a blowout there. Again, this game I expect to be competitive. A ton to like about Sabonis. I got nothing not to like about Sabonis here except for ownership.
That's it, right? If you're fading him, it's an ownership play, and that's about it. Other than that, he is a guy who is just inexplicably priced down right here.
No doubt about it.
Outside of that, I'll be honest, I don't really have any passing interest from anybody in this game. There are guys I could understand, Jeremy Lamb, for example. If you like Lonzo, he's usually capable of upside in the right spots. But I mean, for this game, really, for me, it's Sabonis, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
Yeah, it's a 9-game slate, right? You got to pick your spots. And outside of that, and again, when we go through these longer videos, we're not saying Brogdon won't smash tonight because Malcolm Brogdon can. It's just that as far as priorities go, you have 8 spots, and it's really Sabonis or bust.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it is.
So we move over to the next game, which is going to be Chicago Bulls taking on the Orlando Magic tonight. The Orlando Magic are still going to be, obviously, Jonathan Isaac's been out for a long time. Michael Carter-Williams has been out for a long time. We haven't seen Aminu in a hot minute. Now they've lost Eric Gordon in this one as well, or he was out last game as well. I think very similar to Sabonis, you're also going to see yourself with a very cheap and probably very popular Nikola Vucevic. He was against Toronto. This was a couple days ago. Didn't even play that well, right? Fred VanVleet went insane. And, Vooch does kind of what Vooch does. He didn't do anything crazy special, but he meanders into 51 points because, I don't know, he's a pretty good DFS player. Now he's matched up with Chicago that does not have great rim protection or great big defensive. I think a lot of people are going to go right back here as well.
Same. Projections love Vooch always, and there's no difference about tonight. So it's interesting because we do have, we'll get to OKC in a little bit that has a ton of pieces I like, but Vooch is similar to Sabonis. I think Sabonis is the stronger play simply because he's the better player and better fantasy player. That's all it is. Not by a lot, but by a little bit. And so that's all it is for me.
These 2 teams do match up again tomorrow, same matchup. So if you tell yourself your story, like let's just say you got a feeling that the Bulls or the Magic roll, it's not how I feel about it, but let's just say you tell yourself that story. They got a game tomorrow. Maybe Vooch plays a few less minutes if you're trying to find a reason to get off of him. I do think, however, if you're making like a cash lineup today, the smart play is probably to start with Sabonis and Vooch, very similar to the way that people did this a few days ago. They make a lot of sense. And I'm very interested in the next game. But those seem like 2 guys that you can feel very reliable about the production tonight.
No doubt about it.
Anybody else from this game that you're looking at? Because I can make cases for an Evan Fournier. He started out last game absolutely on fire and then really, really slowed down. So I don't think he's anywhere close to a must. I think the guy that I have more intrigue in, especially from a GPP perspective, is going to be Terrence Ross, who is lightning in a bottle, but also when he's bad, he's real bad. And we saw that last time out. He picked up about 6 DK points in his first minute, and then literally for the next 23 supplied less than 6. So he was terrible. We know that at this price tag, he can go off, but he is far from a must.
Far, far from a must. I probably, if I'm making one lineup, don't land there, but I do like him over Fournier. I mean, I'll always like him over Fournier when he's that much cheaper and less owned.
Yeah, exactly. Like he is going to, we know what he can do, but he is, for me, truly the definition of a GPP player because he's very boomer bust.
This slate, I'll just say this is kind of just taking a step back and looking at it. It's already wild. And we haven't even gotten like a ton of major news yet. So be prepared tonight. Like this slate is going to be something.
Anybody else from this game? Like, I'm not really looking for anybody from Chicago. And again, I want to reiterate, that doesn't mean Zach LaVine won't smash at 8,400. We all know Zach LaVine, when he starts rolling, can smash on this price tag. He's just not a priority for me today.
Same.
Okay. Anybody else?
No.
Okay, cool. Well, let's move on to what could be, for me, an extremely intriguing game. Now, I want to reiterate, both of these teams play tomorrow. You got Toronto's going to be Atlanta tomorrow, and Brooklyn takes on Philly, which is another big Eastern Conference game, like a real big Eastern Conference game. So I don't think it's crazy to find out that one of the big three is out tonight, but as of right now, that is not information that we are privy to.
Yeah, I mean, this game in itself is a wild one. So I feel like this whole slate is like this Toronto-Brooklyn game. As now, it already looks really juicy, and it might just get even better. So there's a ton to like about this game. Who's not? I mean, who don't you like here?
Well, that's kind of a good point. And this game has got a 240 total right now. Now, Toronto haven't played great this year. I understand that, but I still think they're a decent basketball team. We know Brooklyn's good and is going to get even better. Neither of these teams is great defensively. I enjoyed the jokes the other day. I forget which pub or big name show it was. They're like, yeah, the Nets defense really stepped up. I'm like, and I think it was Nick Wright is like, yeah, they only gave up 120 this game, and the Clippers missed about 10 easy shots. So we've talked about Brooklyn at length. They are the most exciting team in basketball, right? Like the Lakers, I still think are the best team, but they're not nearly as exciting as Brooklyn. You got three great offensive players. I mean, great, but they're not great defensively. And Toronto's kind of been more offensive oriented this year as opposed to defensive oriented. So I think there are some real smash spots in this one. But like, if we found out Kyrie is out, I think it's really hard not to lock in James Harden.
I agree. I mean, and then once one of them's out, it's hard to not to lock. So the way I look at it, kind of always is like Durant is always the most solid play, and when all three are in, I think I like Durant the most. When one of them is out, though, like Kyrie or Harden, I like the other guard, even more than Durant.
Right, Durant. I want to watch him take over one of these games when they're all three of them are in there, because I think we still agree he's the best player of the three.
I agree.
And I know like some of the guys who just worship him, like on the bigger like NBA shows, think he needs to be more aggressive because he's the best player. This just doesn't really seem to be who he is, like to take over games like this, like incredibly high efficiency. But I just want to watch him alpha dog it on Harden and Kyrie would just want to be like, dude, I'm the best player here. Give me the ball. But it's hard to like him as much when all three of them are playing.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
So I think this game is incredibly intriguing. And let's just even X out the Brooklyn guys for right now, because until we find out if one of them's out, it's hard to really discuss them in great length. And there will be a follow-up show later this afternoon. And if we find out news, then we can get even more like, hey, I want to go all in on Durant or Harden today or whatever.
And I was going to say, like, I like the Toronto side even more than the Brooklyn side.
I'm with you, man. Van Vliet was crazy good last game, so obviously don't expect that to happen again. But your boy Kyle Lowry, who I know you've always been a big fan of, has played very well the last couple of games. I think this is a spot he could absolutely go off. He could bully Kyrie, as kind of a thicker guy like this. He's really passed the ball well the last couple of games. I think this is an absolute smash spot. He's not too cheap, but this is the kind of game where he could, definitely make it a third straight game of averaging around 50.
I agree all the way around. He's one of my favorite players on the slate. I like Lowry a ton here. And, yeah, I also like Van Vliet and Siakam and, a couple other Raptors, but Lowry's my favorite.
Even Aaron Baines, right?
I like a lot of the Raptors here.
Okay. I still think it's absolutely insane that, one of our little pet projects, Chris Boucher, has gone from dropping 40 on the regular to isn't anywhere close. His price is way down now. So I can't do it in a main lineup. But for those of you who play a lot of lineups, it was just 3 weeks ago when this guy was just destroying this price tag. I don't expect it tonight, but it's still there. And I think he could be at bad odds, but potentially like one of the greatest smash plays out there.
I agree.
But it's hard to trust it, and you got to be ballsy. And if you only play one lineup, this is not the play.
Mm-mm.
So, I'm wildly interested in the Toronto guys. I'm with you. How do you think this game plays out? Like, what are your expectations for this one as far as, the competition level?
I mean, quite honestly, like I think this game is competitive. Like, besides the normal, like any game can blow out. Like, why would this game be competitive, right? Like, I mean, why wouldn't it be?
I'm with you. I kind of expect it to be competitive. I expect it to be wildly entertaining and high scoring. Now, when Brooklyn plays well and hits their shots, they can kind of roll up on anybody, but it's not typically what we've seen out of them. So I expect this game to be close as well. Like, it's really difficult for me to sit here and look you guys in the face and say, hey, let's play Norman Powell at 6,700. But based on how he's played recently, I think a lot of people struggle to play Norman Powell at 6,700. And I think he's very capable with no OG and the fact that there is no defense in this spot. I think he could be a very intriguing play.
Man, Norman Powell at 6,700. Oh man.
30 plus and 5 straight.
I don't know if I can do it, but I get your points. I mean, listen, I like this game a lot. For me, it's like, man, you're basically choosing him over one of the more established guys. Like, are you willing to do that?
You know that he won't be in my main lineup, right?
Of
You know
course.
me well enough to know that's not where he's going to be. But he is playing well. I do think he's a good basketball player. There is no OJ Anunoby today, making his minutes even more secure. And because this is a kind of crush spot where they're probably going to try their best to focus defensive attention on the likes of Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet, he's going to get some open threes. And if this thing turns into a track meet, there's no reason he can't meander into 40 points again. I wouldn't say it's the safest bet on here. And I think a lot of people think the way that we both do, which is how do you spend this much money on Norman Powell?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult.
So this game has got oodles of appeal. And if this game is tight, everybody's going to play their full minutes. So we use the saying a lot, tell yourself a story. When it comes to this game, tell yourself a story. If you think Brooklyn rolls at home, don't go super heavy on it. Both of these teams play tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But the flip side of that is if we find out like Harden is out today, man, it's going to be real difficult for me not to just start with Kyrie or KD or whatever.
Yeah, I agree with that. No doubt about it, or both.
All right, next up. So you and I have gone to one basketball game in our lives together, and it was when the Bucks played the Cleveland in Cleveland about 2 years ago. They match up again tonight.
I think that might have been the last game I've been to. I know it's the last game you've been to, but I think that might have been the last game I've been to.
Yeah, I don't know about yours. I know it is for me. No Giannis that night was a little disappointing. We had some great seats, but our teams match up again tonight. And I think this is another one where I think you tell yourself a story. In my money, I don't think Drummond and Giannis get a ton of love tonight, but if you think this game's going to be close, I think that's a lower owned type of stack.
I agree with that. Interesting that these teams also play tomorrow again.
So don't be surprised if somebody's out right here. Or if Drummond plays, what we saw last time that they had a back-to-back like this, he played huge minutes against Minnesota and then was either injured or was air quotes injured the next game and didn't play. So I think that makes Drummond a little bit more intriguing to me. The idea that maybe they let him run bigger minutes tonight. And if you think this game is competitive, you could probably get Drummond at slightly lower ownership than you would expect. You can get Giannis at lower ownership because there's so many smash plays out there. And the idea of this game being competitive, I think is intriguing in GPPs. Not where I would go in the main lineup, but intriguing.
Agreed.
So I do think there's a possibility that there's going to be guys out in this game. What do you think about that?
I definitely agree with that.
Your boy Sexton is questionable. I think if you're telling yourself a story, this game is competitive and he's out, I think the Garland, Drummond with maybe a Giannis type of three-man stack to start a tournament lineup is kind of intriguing.
I agree. I think Garland's a solid look, even if, regardless of this game script, if Sexton's out.
So I watch all the Bucks games for the most part. The real problem with Milwaukee right now is when they get hot from three-point range, like we've seen the last two games against Portland and Indiana, they absolutely blow people out, which hurts the real upside. because what you want are these major upside games, but it's difficult for, a Pacers on a back-to-back, or a Cleveland, just not as good of an offensive team to stick with them. So it's difficult for them to have higher upside games because when their offense is playing to their higher upside, then they just kind of run people out of the floor. And when they're not shooting the ball well and they're hurting their upside, then the game isn't as smash play for GPP purposes.
I'm with you. It makes a lot of sense.
So I don't know, just something to play in the back of your mind. We saw it last night with a bunch of lopsided games. The 3-ball is just, it really destroys the predictability of DFS these days because we've seen inferior teams run all over good teams just because their 3-balls are falling and the other teams isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch the Sixers game last night?
I watched a lot of it. Not much of the second half, though.
I mean, does it get more emotional than the Joel Embiid experience last night? So he started the game he was good. He was good in the first quarter, not great. Then he got hurt. So a chalky player all of a sudden looks like he's not going to come back into the game. Well, then he does, and he was magnificent. Looked like he might have put up one of the better DFS games of the season. I mean, he was just unstoppable after coming back in from injury. And then he was almost a no-show in the second half. So it was just a roller coaster ride of emotions.
Mm-hmm. This is very, very true.
So I don't know. That's NBA DFS kind of summarizing the one player last night. But man, I mean, he looked like he was going to drop 80 DK points if you watched him play in the second quarter.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
All right. Moving on down the line. For me, Utah-Charlotte is essentially just a cross-off game. I'm not saying Ball can't get there if Rozier's out or that Cody Zeller isn't balling. But Utah runs people out of the gym, so there's always that. I don't look at this as a great DFS game. So with so many smash plays on the slate, this is just one I'm crossing off.
I agree. I mean, interesting to see if Utah sits someone off a back-to-back, but I mostly agree with you, man. I definitely agree there.
Yeah, that's a potential play. And Jordan Clarkson got rolling again yesterday. He was like the one guy from Utah that was good because – I don't know. They rolled on a bad Atlanta team that was missing a lot of their best players. And, the other guys just didn't need to get there. And I don't know. He's cheap if you want to go there, especially if somebody's out.
Sure.
Washington, Miami. So I feel about this game a lot about how I do about Milwaukee, Cleveland. There's some potential here, but I do think this game gets slightly overlooked because there's so many good plays, Sabonis, Vucevic, and we haven't even gotten to OKC yet.
Yeah, I think I like this game even more than I like the Cleveland-Milwaukee game that we talked about. Similar, but, I do like Jimmy Butler a lot here. Again.
Yeah, we liked Butler a lot last game. He was good, not great. I like him for all the same reasons. He wasn't as aggressive as we had anticipated. He only shot 11 times versus the 17 or the 18 per game, the 3 previous. He still got to a decent score, just not great.
Yeah, I really, really like him again tonight. I mean, I told you he had at least one more steal that I don't know how it didn't get counted there. I think after these couple losses to Charlotte and Washington, I think you see Butler maybe even play a couple more minutes. I love him here. And then Washington – just beat Miami without Westbrook. A little bit interested in Westbrook. He wasn't as aggressive last time out, but now a couple days off. You don't worry about back-to-backs with him. Westbrook and Avdia are two guys I'm looking at from Washington.
I was also going to say, if all of a sudden, Harden doesn't play and Kyrie at the same price tag becomes uber chalk, it does give me some intrigue in Russell Westbrook at lower ownership than he should be because it's a loaded slate.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's something to keep in the back of your mind. I will also say this. Miami's finally healthy. I know they've been getting raked through the coals by the media lately. They're going to get better as a team. They played very few games this year with most of their players because of COVID reasons and injury reasons. Just putting that out there. Hachimura has been playing better lately too. I'm not dying to get here at 5,400, but the minutes are up. He shot 3 of 11 last game and still rolled into 30 points. I think he's a fine filler piece.
Same.
And then you mentioned Vija.
He looks good right now. He's playing bigger minutes. He's a guy that can hit threes. Again, 5 for 8 from three the last couple games. He's under 4K. Like, especially if I'm using a couple pieces from this game. Far from a must, but as a filler piece, I like him.
So I probably won't get to Bradley Beal on this slate at all because he is 9,500, but he's a very reliable play. It's hard to get to him over like Sabonis and Vucevic for me in a main lineup, but if I were stacking this game a little bit, I can understand it.
Yep.
I'd probably be more likely to play Westbrook here, but he's Bradley Beal. He's fantastic.
I agree.
He doesn't do enough things. Like this dude scores 37, 48 points, 37 real life points, 50 DK points. He's such a good scorer, but other than the day that you loved him and he got 70, he just doesn't do huge upside too often.
Very, very true.
All right, so Minnesota, LKC. So the difficult part about all these other games is like there's good plays, but this game's got a ton of potential.
I mean, a ton of potential, right? Like, so much potential. All those cheap guys again. And then because it's even it's an even better spot because Minnesota is so bad. A couple of Minnesota guys are definitely in play. It's hard not to just like lock in 4, 5, 6 pieces from this game.
So I liked Maladon a lot last game. And Houston is actually turned into a pretty good defensive team. So I know OKC played really, really well right here, but I think we firmly agree Minnesota's a way better matchup than Houston.
Mm-hmm.
So Maladon, he got there in a weird way last game. He was uber chalk for all the obvious reasons. He's $700 more expensive today, but he's still wildly in play. He's probably not going to replicate the 6 steals, but he's also very likely to shoot better than 2 of 12 and get more assists than 4. I think he's more likely to see 5+ than 4 or less.
I agree with that.
So I think he gets there differently today, but I definitely still think he gets there, and he seems like a solid play at the shooting guard position for 5K.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other guys I like are the same usual cast of characters. Well, usual being that we've seen this once. Diallo's 5,200. He was very assertive, played very well last game. Cover boy Darius Baisley. I mean, he was fantastic last game out. And we just like him as a player.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, he looked really good, especially in the first half last game. This is such a cake matchup. I mean, again, Baisley, Diallo. And the only reason I was talking about the centers earlier, the main guy I was talking about was Horford. Like, I don't know. They also have cheap players in play here. He lost blowout run. He looked good to me, so I have no problem going right back there.
I agree. And because the last 2 games have been blowouts on the flip side of it, his price hasn't raised at all. So we brought him up 2 shows in a row, and he's been very blah each occasion. But it wasn't that he played poorly. It was that they lost by 30. And, I mean, they only won this game by 17. But if you watch the game, they were clearly winning by more than 17 in the fourth quarter. That was just kind of that late hustle to make it look more relevant than it was.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about it.
So, yes, you can go very deep on OKC again. Justin Jackson got a little love last slate. He was awful in his 30 minutes. Not a mainstay, but, he's really, really cheap. The guy I played in my best lineup was Kenrich Williams. He had a solid day. No guarantee this continues. He won't shoot 3 from 3 every single day, but he is 3,500, which is significantly cheaper than the other guys.
Yeah, exactly. And Justin Jackson still.
Yeah.
Getting a lot of ownership love. I mean, with no Dort, it opens up all these guys too.
I'm not talking about Pokashevsky as somebody you want to play. I just thought it was funny. During the game the other day, they talked about how he needs to get in the gym a little bit. He's like 7 feet tall, but under 200 pounds.
Stop it.
Yeah, like that's really hard to do.
Stop it.
All right, as far as Minnesota goes, it's difficult to speak about them without knowing about D'Angelo Russell. But like if Russell was out, I'd be heavily interested in Malik Beasley.
Russell's played the last 3 games. He's took more shots last game. He played more minutes. Like I like Russell a lot here, assuming he's in, and I assume he's in because he's been questionable the last 3 games.
They've been going full LeBron on him.
Yes, they have, which is very annoying. I mean, listen, who knows? But I like how his minutes, went back up 30 and took 20 shots. I expect him to play here.
Okay. This is one that he seems too cheap, but honestly, he's had a lot of really bad games this year.
Yeah, he has. I don't think he's too cheap. I do like the spot for him, though.
He's too cheap based on what we know he can do. So when I see D'Angelo Russell at 6,900, knowing that he's going to have to run and gun, I'm like, I think he looks too cheap. The problem is he's not based on his production this year. He's actually only had, a handful of games where he's really smashed on this price. We know he's capable of these 57-point games. We just haven't seen much of it this year.
No doubt about it.
So I get why you like him. His teammate Malik Beasley, though, has been significantly more consistent this year.
He has. No doubt about that either.
So there's that. I know the other guy that owes you his career so far is Anthony Edwards, because we talked about Richardson the other day. Edwards, after you called him out, I think it was maybe the game against Atlanta on the 22nd, and just how pathetic he'd been playing, has at least been rock solid since then. And he's probably not a main play for me on this one. I'd rather use one of the OKC guys at this price, but he will be a lot lower owned.
I agree with that.
So I would never get there in a main lineup, but still wondering when they're going to get Cat back.
I know an update came yesterday. He's out tonight, right?
He's out tonight. I'm just wondering when he's eventually going to come back. Because what about Naz Reid at 5,400?
Don't mind it. Yeah, this whole game, man, I think you could name a player in there and play.
So these are two bad basketball teams, right? And what you can see in a game like this is you can see Minnesota rolling. You could say OKC rolling. You can see it being low scoring and competitive. It's also one of those games that if Malik Beasley and Maladon are hitting their threes, has all the potential to be, 128 to 127.
Agreed.
So I know that's one of your big sports betting things is like two bad basketball teams, and they are. I give OKC credit for fighting, but they're not a good basketball team, and we know how bad Minnesota is. They can work out in a variety of different ways, but there is a lot of potential here. There's a lot of cheap plays, and you can expect these OKC guys to get love again.
I agree with that.
All right, Phoenix against Detroit. This is not a game that I'm lined up to go too deep on. I think the guy that we have the most intrigue in, probably Jeremy Grant at 7K.
Yeah, I will say, the Phoenix side, no Jay Crowder, I guess, helps them. But yeah, Jeremy Grant would be my favorite piece from this game, probably.
Detroit does play tomorrow. So if you're telling yourself a story that Phoenix plays well and gets them rolled, maybe then you're not interested. They play at the Lakers tomorrow. I'm sure they're going to get destroyed in that game because I'm sure the Lakers are not happy with the way this one played out last time.
Yeah, I think that they'll probably get rolled on tomorrow. This game is more or less a cross-off. I think that Grant, is in play, but not dying to get here.
Yeah, he'd been a guy we'd talked about a lot, and then he kind of went cold for a little bit. He did start to play better last game, so if you're looking for a reason to play him.
And I'll say this, his first run was awful. He had negative 0.5 when he got pulled in the first quarter.
All right, man. So he rolled for 45 points in the last 30 minutes of this game at Utah, which is not an easy place to play. Now, I'm sure the Jazz, who were up by 25, kind of just played lackluster and we started coasting. But that doesn't mean that he can't go give it to Phoenix at 7K. And this is a guy that almost averages GPP value on this price tag.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I think him and the other guy I forgot to mention is Ayton on the other side. Grant and Ayton, basically the same price, the two favorite guys from this game.
Yeah, I can understand using Ayton here. He's very cheap.
Much more solid than spectacular, though. I'll say that.
Yes. Yeah. Let's see here. That's about it for this game. And then the last game as well might be the best game as far as good teams go, but not a game that I'm going out of my way to pull pieces from.
I agree with that.
Jalen Brown's questionable, but it's the last game of the night, so who even knows if we get any information on this one. I could see a Marcus Morris being fine at 4,100, but I'm not going out of my way to play him in this spot. This is mostly a cross-off game because I just think these are two really good defenses, and I'm not going out of my way to play guys from here.
Same. I think for me it would be Kemba Walker, especially. I think he's in play regardless, but if Brown's out, he becomes an even stronger play.
That's a good point.
Beverly's out, so that that helps. That's about it though, and because I think he's a fine play even if Brown's in, but a real strong play if Brown's out.
Now you might not know that, guys, because it's the last game, but I do think that's a great point. And as the day progresses, if we find out more about that, it might become even a smarter play Because if Brown's out, I'm with you. And if Brown's in, probably don't get there. And it's going to be hard to prioritize it because we don't love these plays in the last game. So if it's like a game time decision, it's really difficult to look at that too closely.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about it.
All right. So, it's the early morning. Obviously, if you played NBA DFS for more than a week, you know that shit's going to change because it always changes. But like if I were starting a cash game lineup right now, I still think despite all the guys we've talked about, I'm going to go with a Sabonis Vucevic start. And I'm probably going to go grab myself a Maladon. And then at small forward, Baisley, Diallo, or both of them. Not both at the small forward, but I think you guys understand how that works.
For sure.
And then that's kind of where you have to start waiting for the value to see where you can end up because we're bound to get some of it, but who knows? This does kind of put me out of the competition. I can get a Kyle Lowry, who I like, or a Kyrie or something like that. I think the real question, though, comes from what happens in this Toronto-Brooklyn game. Like, if all of a sudden Kevin Durant's out, well, now it's like, do I want me some Jeff Green in my life?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in play here.
Right? Bruce Brown, if one of those guards is out, has been fine when he's been, called upon. He's not a great NBA player, but he's a fine punt play in those situations because, he does enough little things, not a must or anything like that. But I do like this game for DFS, so I think we just got to stop and wait on the news.
Agreed.
It sounds like your team Lowry over Team Van Vliet today, though, right?
I am, but I like both. And honestly, like my line as of right now would probably start very similar to yours. Maybe no Vucevic, but other than that, all pretty much the same exact guys.
So with Nikola Vucevic, he's a very strong player for a high floor, but not dissimilar to Bradley Beal. Just doesn't go for over 55 very often. So I think there's a very likely scenario. Like I played Kawhi over him the other day, and Vooch was good, but Kawhi was a little bit better. And if that's how you feel about, like, say, a James Harden or a Kyle Lowry or a Fred VanVleet, I think you can get away from Vucevic, especially in tournaments today. Because I think the possibility, especially with the game tomorrow, that maybe he just gives you 45, which is good, but not great.
For sure. No doubt about it.
So if you think somebody else smashes, he's a better floor play and a better cash game play than tournament play.
Mm-hmm.
So that all being said, he's still a fine tournament play if you like him.
Yeah, agreed wholeheartedly.
All right. So if you were starting a GPP lineup early in this morning, it's going to be pretty similar to this, but probably take out Vooch.
Yeah, like exactly. And I mean, again, maybe I'd throw 8 in there. He's a lot cheaper.
Or take out Diallo and put in Horford or something like that.
Yeah, because the other thing is I do really like, and this is where like maybe, I don't think Sabonis is a must because we talked about it. I like Jimmy Butler a lot here. So if I were making one lineup, Butler would be in it. I also like Russell Westbrook a lot. So the thing about OKC today, which makes it a little bit trickier, they're still must plays, but they're a little bit more expensive. So they're all still must plays, but it makes it so you can't roster as good of players around them, if that makes sense.
Right. And you also, I know a point that, again, just hitting on the sports betting angle again, you really liked OKC that day because they were embarrassed.
Yeah.
The game before.
I don't love OKC here. And if this were like even a little bit of a harder spot, I think I might be just trying to fade OKC. This spot, though, is just so good. Minnesota's so bad.
It's a big point, and it's something that I've definitely, through the years, changed my opinion on a little bit, which is teams in bounce-back spots. That's why I love the Rockets to play well last night and beat the Grizzlies, is because they were embarrassed the game before. Meanwhile, they had embarrassed the Thunder the game before. It's why I expect the Lakers to just flat out roll on the Pistons tomorrow night. You know what I mean? And OKC is not coming off a bad loss. They're coming off a good win. So I could see them, even against a bad Minnesota team, floundering a little bit.
Agreed. I agree with that.
So I do think, fading some of these guys, as you just mentioned, who are more expensive now is wildly in playing tournaments because I'm assuming, without having done a lot of great ownership research, and it's early in the day, so it wouldn't be that accurate anyway, I'm assuming these guys are all going to be relatively popular today.
Yeah, I would assume so. They all are popping.
Yeah, I would. Do you have a favorite play out of all these guys?
It's probably Diallo.
Okay. Um, I'm pretty torn on Maladon, Diallo, and Baisley. I can make good arguments for or against any one of those three, but I think those are the three that'll be the most popular.
Agreed.
I know Kenrich Williams was really good last game, but I know people will probably struggle to get there because he doesn't start.
For sure.
All right. Any last minute throw ins? The Drummond call for me is a big boom potential right here because I could see this being the same kind of game where Milwaukee gets that 15, 20-point lead, but then kind of lets the Cavaliers get back into it, and Drummond can smash on this price tag. But I think it's really, really risky because knowing that they play tomorrow, if Milwaukee hits a lot of threes early, then he's a guy that it could be a huge bust as well.
Agree there.
So he's one of my favorite boom bust plays on the slate, but I think he's a high capability of busting as much as he is booming.
Agree.
So we kept it a little tighter today, just for the public and everything like that. Again, just to reiterate those announcements, check out Jazz Sports. If you're interested, hit me up if you do sign up and make a first deposit, and we'll get you a free membership to the 5-pack for a month. More information on the Discord coming. NBA-only customers, please use that link if you want in. And then monthly and annual customers, you will be getting your link over the next couple of days. And we will be back with our favorite plays later on this afternoon.
Yeah, we'll be back with our favorite plays. And then also, like you mentioned, depending on if we get news, maybe we'll come out with another video, potentially just a members-only video. But I just wanted to reiterate the Jazz Sports and what a great time it is to sign up right now, especially with the Super Bowl coming up this weekend. Just such a good time to hop in there. I know I'll be in there, so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about drafters and everything we got going on, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a day, so I'm assuming you were going to bet on something. Very similar, like you said in Discord last night. Like somebody asked if I was still playing because some of the news had changed, and Matt's like, I can't say for sure, but it's a day, so I'm assuming Ryan's going to be playing the slate.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I mean, it was really crappy out last night. Here, like we got like 8 inches of snow in Green Bay. I couldn't go anywhere. Like I wasn't not going to be watching NBA and playing.
No doubt about it.
All right, guys. Good luck today. Talk to you all a little bit later.
Thanks, guys.